Outside of the gaming world, Indiana Jones has failed to live up to its previous successes, with the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and the Dial of Destiny falling pretty flat on their faces. But stepping up to the plate in the gaming world is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, with a brand new narrative set between the films of Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. The Great Circle is an action-adventure game, and it takes place in the year 1937, and it pits Indiana Jones up against the Nazis, a notorious Nazi archaeologist and occultist, Emmerich Voss, as he attempts to harness the power connected to the Great Circle. But does the game, and just as importantly the story, live up to the original Indiana Jones trilogy, or does this one fall short of expectations? Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and find out. Just a heads up folks, this video contains absolutely no spoilers for the game, and all of the footage you are seeing was captured in the first half of the story. So first up, let me give you an overview of the game. Now, as I said, it's an action-adventure game where we assume control of Indiana Jones himself as he attempts to stop the Nazis from harnessing the power of the Great Circle. The game is primarily played in first person, but it will occasionally revert to third person mode when you find Indy climbing up walls, shuffling along walls, or gliding down a rope using his whip. Now initially I thought this game was going to be pretty linear, however there are multiple levels in the game that put us in reasonably large open areas, which is entirely free for us to explore and do as we see fit. Each one of these larger areas have side quests to undertake, collectibles to find, puzzles to solve, and ancient ruins to explore. The side quests in each of these areas give you a little bit of freedom in how you approach them. So for example, you could take a stealthy approach, you can grab a disguise and go undercover, or you can just go in and beat the crap out of everyone you come across along the way. Now I personally didn't expect that level of freedom from a game like this, so it came as a very pleasant surprise, and I had a thoroughly enjoyable time exploring each one of these big areas. Now let me quickly go over the technical side of things, mainly performance, before we get stuck into the story and the gameplay itself. So for reference, I was playing Indiana Jones The Great Circle on the Xbox Series S without the texture pack, mainly because my console ran out of storage space, which reminds me I need to get more storage. But anyway, I'm blabbering. The game looked really great for me, even without that texture pack. The open areas I got to explore, like the Vatican and ancient Egypt, looked stunning. And from a performance perspective, I had absolutely no issues whatsoever through my entire playthrough, which came as a pleasant surprise as well. Like, I put probably 35 to 40 hours into this game trying to explore everything. Though I've heard this game has quite demanding requirements for PC players, so I suspect you might need quite a beefy PC to run it to its full potential. But for me, on my relatively measly Xbox Series S, the game performed great and it looked just as good as well. So let me give you a very, very quick overview of the story without giving away any spoilers, of course. So the game is set in 1937. After having a cat mummy stolen from Marshall College, Indy then finds himself trying to hunt that mummy down, which brings him to the Vatican, which happens to be under control of Mussolini and the Black Shirts. Now, skipping out spoilers, in the Vatican, this is where we are first introduced to Voss, who is the main villain of the game, and I must say he's a damned good one at that. Anyway, Indy fears that Voss has learned how to harness the power of the Great Circle, which represents a number of sacred religious sites across the globe, forming, you guessed it, a perfect circle. And from there on out, Indy follows Voss across the world in an attempt to stop him from unleashing that power and using it for the Nazis' benefit. Now, in terms of the Indiana Jones films, the latest two were a bit shit, let's be honest. But spoilers aside, the narrative of the Great Circle really is the return to form for the franchise, and it is significantly better than those two previous films. And it's more on par with the original trilogy in my eyes, and I have to mention it again, Voss is an excellent villain and one of my favourite from any Indiana Jones story as well. Right, onto the gameplay side of things. Now, as I mentioned, the game gives you freedom on how you can approach certain tasks from both the main story and the side quests. So again, stealth, go undercover, beat the crap out of everyone, you get the point. In each of these open levels, there are going to be plenty of bad guys who you can take out if you so desired, but there's no real need for you to do so because it doesn't really bring any benefit from them, and you're going to grab a lot of unwanted attention. But it is quite fun to beat the crap out of them every now and again using either your fists or one of the many props you can pick up from your surroundings. Like, you can pick almost anything up. You can pick up pans, broomsticks, sledgehammers, guitars, glass bottles, and then you can beat the crap out of anyone with them. It really is really good fun. But if you do decide to pick up a gun and shoot a Nazi, you're going to get a lot of unwanted attention, so instead of taking a quiet approach is often better. Though if you do decide to get stuck into the combat though, the melee combat specifically is one of the gameplay's greatest strengths in my opinion. So whether you're taking down an enemy from behind with a random object you've picked up, or whether you decide you want to get into a boxing match with them, every blow you're going to land is incredibly satisfying. It feels very much in character for Indiana Jones, I think, and it has great sound effects to go with it. You'll have a great time. But on to exploring. So obviously when you're out exploring ruins or temples, Indy's iconic whip comes in great handy, like a lot. So you'll find yourself swinging across large gaps, or you're going to use it to get up walls to reach otherwise inaccessible areas. And this is kind of where the game flexes a few of its technical muscles, I guess, because it transitions from first to third person seamlessly, and it makes navigating hazardous objects more approachable in third person, and it looks great in both, to be honest. One downside to the gameplay, however, and I've seen a few other people mention this, is the enemy AI, because, to put it bluntly, they're fucking dumb. It's really, really easy to sneak up on them, even if you're not coming from directly behind them and crouching. They're not going to notice you, or it's going to take them a long time to notice you. So sometimes, even if you're standing directly in their line of sight, it's going to take them a good few seconds to go, oh, there's Indiana Jones, he shouldn't be here. Like, I often found myself sneaking through restricted areas without causing a fuss or getting noticed. Like, I wasn't really sneaking that hard. Like, in other games, I would have expected to probably be getting shot at by that point. But luckily enough, navigating around enemies isn't the sole focus of the game, so I can let that one slip just a bit. As you'd probably expect with any Indiana Jones story, there's going to be puzzles, and the Great Circle is no different here because it has them in abundance. And luckily they're not repetitive, like they're all quite different. They're also not that challenging, as I managed to get through most of them without seeking any help. But for some of the more complex ones, the game does have a hint system which will help you if you take a photo of the offending puzzle with your in-game camera. This is a neat little touch because it means I managed to play through the entire game without using Google or YouTube to figure some of these puzzles out. But alongside the story quests and puzzles, there is a lot of side stuff you can do in the game. Some of it is in-depth side quests, some of them are mysteries you got to solve to get a reward, and there are a whole bunch of collectibles you can find along the way. There are plenty of these in the open areas, and I find myself exploring every possible inch of them, just in case I'd missed something. The side quests definitely don't feel like filler, and many of them, or well, the field work is what they're actually known as in the game, are really, really good, and they're anything but copy and paste quests that you'll see in other games, which tend to just add bloat. Like, they don't feel like Indy is slacking off from the story, they all feel like they're worth completing, and aside from that, you do get rewards from them, so things like money, adventure points, and books for progression. More on that in a minute. But it's definitely best to do this field work as you're progressing throughout the game rather than after you've completed the story, because it will come in a lot more use. There are a bunch of mysteries you can stumble upon as well, and it's usually by picking up a note lying on a table or whatever it is. These are smaller but still just as fun. They often include small puzzles like having to find a code to open a safe, and they'll get you smaller rewards but still beneficial rewards as well. And finally, there are collectibles. As I said, lots of collectibles in each level, like medicine bottles, radio transmission codes, ancient artifacts, amongst other stuff. I found myself spending plenty of time hunting a lot of these out. I didn't quite reach 100%, but I know one day I'm definitely going to revisit this game to 100% it probably, because I had a fucking great time. Now let's talk about progression. So progression in the Great Circle is not really like some games where you'll level up various aspects of your character, but in this one you can improve Indy's character performance, so things like combat, traversal, stamina, etc, etc, and you do this by acquiring adventure books. Now each adventure book is going to give you some different benefits, so we're talking things like quicker stamina regeneration, more damage from your punches, increased health, increased carry capacity, or whatever. And you'll find these adventure books as you explore in the open areas, so some may be hidden off the beaten path in a cave or some ruins, some you're going to find when you're completing field work, some are staring you right in the face as you go through the main story. Basically, they're dotted all over the place and it's definitely worth hunting them out. But to actually get the benefits of these books, you need to rack up adventure points, which you can do by completing some of the side quests I previously mentioned, or you can take photographs of famous points of interest. This is one of the reasons why completing all of the fieldwork and side work is a great idea, aside from those quests being great fun in the first place, of course. So, what is my verdict on Indiana Jones and the Great Circle? Well, I have to admit, the game surprised me in the best possible way because I had an absolute blast playing it. Honestly, I easily sunk, I think, about 35 to 40 hours into this by exploring as much of the game as I possibly could, and not a single minute felt like a slog. The story was great, the gameplay was great, especially the combat, the visuals were great, exploring real-world places and ancient ruins were great, the puzzles were fun and challenging enough, the supporting characters were awesome, the villain was awesome, and Troy Baker did a really great job for portraying Indiana Jones. Like, if you weren't to know, you could easily mistake the voice being actual Harrison Ford himself. Baker did a really great job. But to wrap everything up, if you're a Game Pass subscriber and you haven't played Indiana Jones and the Great Circle yet, what are you doing? This is your sign to download it right now because you're going to have a great time playing it. And if you are considering buying it, I would say if you can do so, yes, get it, because it's an absolute blast and it's actually worth the money as well, and there's going to be DLC in the future. It's a full price AAA game, so it did have a lot to live up to, but I think it definitely succeeds in doing so. Which is a nice surprise from a lot of other AAA games that have come out in recent times. But anyway, there you have it, folks. There is my review for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It really is a return to form for the Indiana Jones franchise, and I would highly recommend you give it a playthrough. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you are still here, it would be totally awesome if you could support my channel by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. You can now become a channel member as well, and as always, thank you for watching this video, and I hope to catch you in my next one.
Du hast Angst vor mir?